In the final round of a tech sales interview, oftentimes you're asked to present a 30, 60, 90-day plan. So I've provided a template both in the description, and we're going to walk through it shortly, on not only how to create a 30, 60, 90-day plan, but also present it effectively. I might also add, this is typically more commonly seen in account executive interviews as opposed to SDR, but nonetheless, it might be required as an SDR. And in any case, it's a great way to think through not only how you might take advantage of your first 3 months on the job, but again, it's a great exercise to even prepare for an interview, thinking of how you might respond to a question like, how are you going to be effective in this role? All right, everyone, the link for this template is in the description below. Just create a copy. Don't actually ask for access or anything of that nature. But I'm going to walk through again. The purpose of this is to be super high level. You can either book time with me if you want to create your own and go over it, or we have a much more extensive course on this as part of our bootcamp. But with that being said, the 30, 60, 90-day plan, again, is really just a simple overview of your month 1, your month 2, and your month 3 onboarding. A few common mistakes that I see before we get into this format is overcomplicating this, making this super fancy, going way over the top, and or over-promising and setting unrealistic expectations for yourself. So one thing that you'll see that I really make a point to do is create ambitious goals. But I'm not talking like I'm going to be global #1 by month 3. It's like that ambition is great, but make it realistic. And I think a lot of times, especially if you're going for a higher level account executive role, it's finding that combination of showing, yes, your ambition and drive, but also a combination of that and a little bit of realism is going to show me that you're actually going to be really effective and in tune with how to actually be successful in your job. Because sure, a lot of people want to be successful, but if you can actually map that path out, you look that much better. So day 0 to 30, again, the important thing here is getting a little specific to your company. I use this exact 30, 60, 90-day template in the past, and I recently got a job opportunity as an enterprise account manager. So I think the important thing here is, again, it's not realistic in day 0 to 30 to say, I'm going to close $1 million of business, right? And obviously that's an extreme example, but be very practical. The first month of the job, what are some realistic things that we can accomplish? I can know the product in and out. I'm not going to be expected to make calls, make emails. So my first plan of attack is to completely own my product knowledge, right? And command of the message, if you're not familiar, is a training style that some companies have. The current company that I'm at trains on command of the message. So just putting these both in here, like, hey, in the first month, I'm going to be a product expert and I'm going to be the best trainee at our command of the message bootcamp. Additionally, it makes sense. I'm not making calls. I need to learn how we get things done here. So I'm going to build strategic internal relationships, right? And these specific bullets, may vary based on your company. But as an example, a very realistic target is to meet with 5 account executives, 5 sales engineers. If you're an SDR, meet with 3 top performing SDRs, right? These are the types of things you can put in. And also here, where I'm coming in as an enterprise account manager and saying, I'm going to spend half a day with my SDRs. If you're trying to break in as an SDR, what I'm going to do is spend, half a day, spend an hour with each top performing SDR, walk through their cadences, things of that nature, right? And then territory planning and initial outreach. One thing that I'd say informally, doesn't have to be super rigid, but you notice it's like the way that I've structured this is kind of like in order of how I would go. So towards the end of that first month, it's not unrealistic that I could begin planning my territory and start doing some initial outreach. But I'm not promising the moon. I'm not saying I'm going to be the #1 SDR by the end of month 1. Yes, I want to see that ambition, but make it realistic. So now as we focus on month 2, days 30 to 60, it's realistic now as an SDR that we're really going to get our first full month in motion of what our day-to-day job is going to be like. So as an example, some things we can set are accelerating prospecting efforts. If you're an SDR, I want to be hitting the department standard of number of emails and calls per day in this second month. As an account executive, one of the things that's going to be very important, if, for instance, in my case, I'm going to have some existing accounts. So the logical and low-hanging fruit for me is to meet with all of my top spending accounts, right? Have a quarterly outreach plan in place. You can look at these different lines more specifically. I'm not going to go bullet through bullet. But again, it's like whether you're an SDR or account executive, the next logical thing, again, is like you become a company expert. It's not unreasonable in the context of sales. Obviously, you're not writing code or anything like that, but you should be an expert by the end of month 2 in your product and be able to have productive and meaningful conversations with anyone that you speak to. Obviously, it's not going to be the finished product. You're not going to be like done studying your company and product at the end of month 2, but you want to have that goal of being able to drive meaningful conversations. And I think a big key, especially SDR, even account executive, is without oversight. yes, your manager may want to watch over you. You want to be competent enough to where you could run things on your own without them. And again, as an example of a key takeaway in the account executive side is I'm going to reverse engineer the top 5 success stories to create relevant messaging to my accounts. So I'm going to find 5 similar accounts or 5 similar use cases that map to my accounts that we have of customer success stories on our website or white papers, things of this nature. And I'm going to understand those inside and out so I can approach my target accounts with really well constructed insights. And so lastly, again, outreach process in place, whether you're an SDR or account executive, it's like, hey, not only am I going to be hitting my daily expected metrics, but I'm also going to, as an example, create 2 new cadences using some of the style that I've developed on my own. I'm going to have fully end-to-end outreach processes in place that are working well. I have quantified results, etc. These are the types of threads you can pull. And then day 60 to 90, lastly, again, is more around, hey, I'm fully ramped. I'm an expert in our product. I'm hitting my numbers. How do I really set myself up for the year in this last 60 to 90 days of my ramp up period, right? So as an example, in the case of account executive, meeting with all the accounts in my territory, right? At this point, maybe you're an SDR, you've met with all the top performers in your department, and maybe you're transitioning your focus to now meet with some top accounts where maybe as an SDR, you can call into existing accounts like a huge company like, I don't know, Amazon, right? And try and win new business in a different department using the same tool, something of that nature, right? You could also tie a logical outcome to be creating a specific opportunity, creating a number of qualified opportunities as an SDR or even account executive. Are there multiple product lines within your company? And are there any in 2023 that are a new focus for the company? Because if so, maybe that could be a unique angle and a way to differentiate yourself is if you're the first person to truly find out how to sell the new cloud version of their product or whatever it might be. Also, I would have a clear KPI and takeaway from a pipeline generation standpoint, whether you're an SDR or account executive. So again, notice here I'm saying I want 2x my ramp quota. I want to double the expectation. That's an ambitious goal, but I'm not saying I'm going to generate 10x my ramp quota. And because look, everyone's ambitious. Everyone in sales that has had any degree of success or is going to in the future is obviously a go-getter ambitious, but make it realistic. Anywhere from maybe achieving 200 to 300% of the expectation is not too far out of bounds. But if you come in saying, I'm going to accomplish 5 times the expectation, 10 times the expectation, it's like, I mean, we get the enthusiasm, but let's be realistic, right? Like here we see path to 3 times my pipeline coverage. So if I need to close in my first ramp quarter, $100,000 worth of business, just for the sake of an easy example, I want to have $300,000 of opportunities such that if I hit 1/3 of those, I hit my ramp quota, right? So these are the types of things you can put that are realistic, but are also showing like, hey, I'm literally going to make this a numbers game and reverse engineer it. Here's the goals I want to accomplish. And then here's in these individual details, how I'm going to go about it. Generate 2x ramp quota. Because we talked in these previous days about what I'm going to do from an outreach perspective, now that transitions nicely into like, hey, that means I'm going to generate this much pipeline. And these are the numbers I'm going to measure if I'm successful or not. And again, however this looks, feel free to modify it. But at the end, I would say the last thing is always have an extensive review of your progress. So whoever your manager is going to be, hey, I want to really make sure at the end of these 90 days that you hold me accountable to all these targets that I set. But additionally, I want to take a chance to, yes, look back on the last 3 months and also look forward to the next 9 months of my first full year at the company. What have I done well? Where do I need to improve? And how am I going to be the most successful in my first year on board? While I could make an entire course about how to present a 30, 60, 90, I just want to hit on a few specific points. Again, assuming you've now tailored it to the job that you're applying to, it's easy to get caught up and distracted in all the little bullet points. I'm not saying don't go into depth on the actual slide itself, but if you're sitting there and walking down line by line, you're going to have eyes glaze over really quickly. So in the same way that I walked you through, again, kind of that high level, what's important, that's the story you want to craft when you're talking to a sales manager in this final round interview, which is, hey, the way that I think about it is in 30-day increments, what is the most realistic things that I can accomplish? And underneath all these bullets that you see are the means of how I'm going to actually accomplish this. And you'll notice as well, I've put in actual measurable results that I want to see as part of this 30, 60, 90-day process. And again, we're not going line by line, but we're saying, hey, 0 to 30, it's not realistic that I'm going to get a ton of customer facing experience. So the way that I'm thinking about it is I need to come in and be a product expert and also become an expert on our sales process itself. By extension, what I'm gonna do is build a lot of rapport internally, and then by the time I get towards the end of the month, I'm gonna be fully equipped to actually start and begin to make meaningful outreach and have meaningful conversations with customers in my territory. And the same thing applies to month 2 and month 3. Again, month 2, I really wanna make sure I'm ramped up fully. Here's the 3 or 4 high-level takeaways, and there's details below. And same with that last month. Again, ending on the fact that you wanna have a recap and be held accountable by your ultimate manager. So I hope that helps. Again, I go into a lot more detail in the bootcamp that we have, and if you ever wanna have a coaching session, that's an offering as well. But I hope that gives you a great starting point. Again, feel free to copy the document, don't request access, but I hope that helps along the way, and we'll see you in our next video. Appreciate it.